Joan was born, it was a delightful time. Joan didn't appear to have any disabilities at that time. Then about 14 months later, Diane came along, no apparent disabilities. A year and a half later, we had Susan. There was some evidence that she had something different going on with her. Eventually, they came up with the diagnosis of just mental retardation with some autistic tendencies. Another year and a half, we had Jeff. Susan and Jeff went to Robert Weiland School that was operating at that time. And Joan and Diane were in the public school system and special ed preschools. It was very overwhelming. I think maybe we spent 4 or 5 days a week at Children's with everybody's therapy and trying to do that. Reaching out to get the benefits for them was a real struggle. It took other parents to say, you gotta do it. You can call someone like the ARC and say, where do we go next? Can you help me find what I need? If the ARC hadn't been there, the support groups, I don't know what it would have been like.
I am a president of People First. People First is actually the person comes first and the disability comes second. Basically, the ARC helps me to stand up for myself when people try to cut me down because of my disability. I was actually put through 3rd grade twice. As soon as I got off that school bus, I ran into my room and just cried because it hurt so much. Now I have a whole bunch of friends to hang out with. I do feel like an ambassador for the disabled, and I'm also part of the board of directors too at the ARC.
I'm a sign interpreter for the deaf and hard of hearing. The ARC helps with disability people to show responsibilities. I taught how to crochet and we brought the Afghan to Children's Hospital for children to use. Much great feeling to share it with someone else.
It's a real scary thing just to leave them out there to the system. I guess that's a real concern.
I am glad we do have the ARC, because that way they're able to step in case something does happen to my parents.
Eddie was just a wonderful little brother. He had a lot of expression in his eyes. We loved to ride the horse together. That was one of our real special things to do. He wasn't able to talk, but he was still able to walk. It was a diagnosis of encephalitis.
And at 15, Eddie had gotten bigger, he had gotten stronger, and his mother's health was failing.
When we actually made the decision to take my brother to the home in Grand Junction, it was devastating. It was a very hard decision for us to make.
We can only surmise the care that Eddie got. What we do know is that they were large congregate settings where a lot of personal attention was not possible. It's very hard for the family to talk about that whole time. It's very, very difficult.
We wondered about him. We would go to see him and there would be problems. His teeth would be broken, and we were told that he had seizures. His hands weren't warm. He looked sad in his eyes. He didn't smile.
We went from seeing a gentleman who could walk to a gentleman who lost the usage of his legs, had paralysis on one side of his body, and then ultimately had to have a tube inserted for feeding. We as an organization felt it was very important to start looking at other residential options where he might live and get the kind of proper care that he required.
It was the most wonderful feeling when Louise asked us to come up here. Such a wonderful change in my brother. His face was rosy, his smile was happy, his eyes were shining, and I touched his hands for the first time and they were so warm. In so many years I hadn't felt that warmth in his hands. The ARC gives me a lifeline. I have the security and the wonderful feeling that he will be okay, that he will be all right.
I can only wonder what the choices that we're making today with a lack of resources and a long waiting list, how that may impact families and individuals 50 years from now.
Caden loves being around other kids. He wants the interaction. He likes watching the other kids, but until he's comfortable with them, he won't get involved. And I feel if he was going to school with the kids that were in his neighborhood, he would develop more of a bond with them and be more comfortable. Caden's a very cool kid.
Nice job!
He loves to sing and dance and laugh and play, and it's difficult as a mother that the average person doesn't see him that way. They assume, you know, something's wrong with them and it's not okay and it's difficult to interact. After moving to Colorado, I had heard about Mobilizing Families, the program run through the ARC, and just attending the meetings was very helpful, and I got to meet other parents who were in the same situation. The next fall after mobilizing, Caden had a new teacher, and we had some troubles. To me, it's worth it to have my son in a school that values him for who he is as a person and isn't solely looking at his disabilities. It's very frustrating to me as Caden's mother to not be able to provide everything he needs to become a successful citizen. I can give him all the love and support, but I can't provide therapies for him. Caden is eligible for at-home therapy and needs it. We've been on a wait list for over a year and a half. Not having occupational therapy at home means that he's 9 years old and we still really struggle with brushing teeth, getting dressed. I'm doing the best I can to teach him these things, but the longer Caden waits on getting these therapies, the harder these things are going to be to learn. As Caden's mother, I have a lot of hopes and fears about his future. I worry about what life's going to be like for Caden after I'm gone. It's comforting for me to know that the ARC is there to be our advocate when we need it. And hopefully they'll be able to continue, not just for Caden, but for generations to come.
Thank you, ARC in Jefferson County.
Thank you, ARC.
Thank you, ARC.
The ARC has been a wonderful link to community resources for our family.
The ARC helped us when our family was really struggling.
Thank you for helping us advocate for our daughter.
Thank you, ARC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The ARC's trainings made us much stronger advocates for our kids and made a great big difference in our family.
Thank you, ARC in Jefferson County, for supporting my self-advocacy work.
For giving us a place to meet.
You are a lifesaver.